As the owner of a small home gym, finding a compact and space-saving solution is always priority number one. And it doesn't really get more space-saving than a 9-in-1 solution, which is exactly what I have behind me. Today, we are gonna look at the Hyper Pro from Freak Athlete, which is a 9-in-1 bench. It claims to do a lot. Ready for this? It is for Nordic curls, back extensions, GHRs, reverse hypers, sit-ups, hip thrusts, leg extensions, leg curls, and upper body exercises. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking there is no way a single unit can do all of those things well, frankly, you're probably right, but that's exactly what we're gonna find out. First and most importantly, Freak Athlete did send me this bench in exchange for an honest review. It seems like they've sent this piece to pretty much every YouTube reviewer there is. I did have a conversation with them before they sent this, and they agreed that this review can and should be 100% honest. So if I find anything negative, or if I hate the machine altogether, that I should be saying that to you. So there are no restrictions on what I can and can't say, and it doesn't benefit me at all to lie to you. It makes no difference to me whether or not you end up buying this or not. I get no commissions, I get nothing for this. I am just recording this review to hopefully help you out, help you make an informed purchase if you're interested. Second, I know a lot of people out there have the old Nordic bench that this company made, and it looks like they have created a pro upgrade kit so you can retrofit the new functionality to your previous unit. It's always such a bummer when companies release something and then a few months later, new and improved, significantly better, and then you just kind of wasted, all this money. Okay, boring stuff out of the way, let's get into it. What in the world is this thing? At its core, this is a Nordic bench made for Nordic curls. Freak Athlete first developed a Nordic curl bench and have since been innovating and adding to it. And now we have this pro version that is 9-in-1. So it does a lot more than just Nordic curls, but just know that that was how this product started. That's its bread and butter. That's what it's meant to do. Now, as I go through this unit, I'm not really gonna tackle it from a super technical standpoint. There are a lot of reviewers out there that specifically review home gym equipment, so they know all the ins and outs of the materials and the manufacturing and all the stuff that goes into this. And frankly, I don't know all that stuff. I'm just a guy who has a home gym. So if you're looking for a review from an average Joe that's using this and learning with you, you're in the right place. So let's talk about the overall build, my first impressions, and then I'm gonna go through each exercise, all 9 options, and tell you how I think each one fares. By far, my least favorite part about having a home gym is having to assemble everything myself. I'd say probably 75% of the time, I put something together only to find out too late that I did one piece wrong and I have to take it all apart. So I was very intimidated opening this box, thinking that I had to put this together. But if you are as inept as I am, you can handle this. They labeled every single bag step by step that corresponds with a video walkthrough. Most times when you order fitness equipment, you're just left with a big bag of bolts and nuts, and you have to figure out as you go through the steps which is used for which, and most of the time I am guessing incorrectly and using longer bolts when I should be using shorter bolts. Not my strong suit, but since everything is labeled, it made it very, very easy. Now, this took me about an hour to put it together because I was watching the videos, pausing and going step by step. With the benefit of hindsight now and seeing how straightforward it actually is, you could power through this in probably 20 minutes putting it together. It is very simple. I'm just no good at this stuff. Once I put it together, I was kind of left scratching my head on figuring out all the adjustments and what exactly this does. Now, there are videos that walk through exactly what this machine is meant for and how to set up each exercise, but it is kind of annoying to have to rely on videos. Like, they have one of those charts on their website that shows every exercise in this nice little image. They could just print that out and provide that with this piece, and I think it would save a lot of time and hassle. But as I started playing with it, I did realize that it was pretty easy to adjust, and it ended up being straightforward. It's worthwhile to just dedicate one workout to playing around with it and figuring out everything it can do, because after one workout, I kind of felt like I got it at that point. The thing that drew me to this piece, and frankly, the only reason I can afford to review it in my home gym, is how compact it is and how it folds up vertically for storage. Once it's folded up and up against the wall, it sticks out about 2 feet. It's very compact, so you can probably find a place for this. The unit's relatively heavy, but it's not that hard to maneuver it around. It's got wheels, it's got a handle, so it's very easy to move and spin in circles if you need to for whatever reason. There's a very simple pop pin handle that can come out and fold back in for moving this around and standing it up, and then it folds out of the way, which is just a very simple thing, but makes a big difference. And one of my favorite features that is probably not a big deal to anybody is when you put this down on the ground, it doesn't crush your fingers. I don't know why so many companies overlook this small fact. This is raised up about 1 inch, so you can actually move it and put it down without having to hold a very specific spot to make sure you don't cut off your fingertips, and I appreciate that. In terms of quality, I would say it's middle of the road. It's home gym equipment. It is not commercial quality. To me, it's in line with something like Titan, where it's not the cheapest of cheap, but it's not high end. You know, you're not getting rogue quality. You're also not paying rogue prices. To me, it feels very sturdy. It's gonna hold up, but it's still budget home gym equipment. I am impressed overall with the padding. So many pieces of home gym equipment will use really flimsy, cheap padding, especially in foot rollers, and these pads are nice and thick, and I'm a fan. So assembly, check. Overall appearance, check. None of that matters if the movements themselves actually suck. So how does it do with the 9 different uses that it advertises? Here we go, we're gonna find out. So number 1, Nordic Curls, the thing that this was designed to do in the first place. No surprise that it does those well. I'm awful at doing Nordic curls. It's not something that's been a regular in my programming, which is why I am awful. The main benefit of doing it on a bench like this, other than the fact that it's comfortable, is that you can set different inclines. So think of it like an assisted pull-up where you can adjust the weight as you get stronger. With a Nordic curl, you can do a steeper incline to make it easier. And then as you progress, as you get better at your Nordics, you can go on a lesser incline, and it will make it more challenging for you. And then eventually you can move on to doing decline Nordics, which I did not realize how difficult they were gonna be. Those are pretty much impossible. Maybe someday I'll do them and then I'll be able to brag to people that I can do decline Nordics. Not necessarily a goal of mine, but yeah, those are hard. If you wanna challenge yourself, it is an option. And then after Nordics, we have the GHD, the glute ham developer for glute ham raises and sit-ups. I think I've used a dedicated machine maybe once. So using this was brand new to me. The GHD pad itself, it's nice and big, really nice, comfortable padding. It's a separate piece. You just have to pop out the main pad of this unit and then throw the GHD pad right on it. It's got a little pop pin so you can adjust exactly where it is and align it so that it's comfortable for your height. This machine has handles that pop out to act as a step to get you into your GHD. What's very interesting is that it is a really knurled handle, like aggressively knurled, and I'm pretty sure the only purpose of it is to be a step. I'm guessing that it is a knurled handle to appease Coop from Garage Gym Reviews because he loves knurling. Otherwise, I see no benefit to that. A cool detail, I suppose. It makes it look nicer, but not necessary. I haven't found any other use for these handles, but once you get up into it and adjust it so you're comfortable, you can do GHRs, and honestly, it is very good for those. It is very sturdy, and I can't imagine a dedicated GHR being much different than this. It seems to do exactly what you would want it to do. One thing that is really nice too is that this entire unit can be adjusted so it's higher or lower. Since I have low ceilings here, the first time I did GHRs, I was almost hitting my head and I was really worried that I was gonna impale myself on an exposed nail. Then I realized that you can lower the entire unit. So it's set up exactly the same, it's just lower to the ground. So if you have low ceilings, you have that option, or if you're super tall, you have the option to put it lower to the ground, which is a really nice additional feature. You could also do GHD sit-ups. not something I'm probably ever gonna do. I think it's a popular CrossFit movement, just doing those explosive, insane sit-ups. I tried them and then I just kind of hung there and it was comfortable enough. I guess if you were to buy a dedicated GHD, it would be for GHRs and sit-ups. So you can do both, but I think it's as good as any standalone unit. Now, I do not have anything to directly compare it to, but for what it's supposed to do, which is GHRs and sit-ups, it is incredibly sturdy. The pad is very comfortable, and I can't imagine that you would get a much better deal with a standalone unit. And then we also have back extensions with this. And frankly, I don't know whether to call them back extensions or hyperextensions. And as I talk through it, I'm probably going to use them interchangeably. So sorry. When I used to go to a gym, back extensions were something I would do all the time. They are such a good warm-up exercise, and it's one of the things that I have truly missed in my home gym. But getting a hyperextension machine, it's just gonna take up space and it only serves one purpose. So it was never something I was gonna buy to take up valuable space in my home gym. So now having the option to do it was very exciting for me. Once you set this up, it looks like any dedicated hyperextension machine. You can adjust the angles to your comfort, and then the height also adjusts. So if you have a longer torso, you can move that around. And then it's got two pads that you can separate so they're further apart or closer together. So if you're worried that your nuggets are gonna get squished, there's a nice little pocket that they could sit in and you don't have to worry about that. Not a whole lot to say about these. Back extensions are back extensions. I think you know how they work. Just as comfortable as any machine I've used in the gym. You can make these more challenging using dumbbells, and when you add weight to these, it is still just as sturdy. There was no wobble to the machine. And I was curious if I could use my cables to kind of add some resistance and make this more challenging. But the way this is set up, it is not nearly tall enough, and having to keep your arms bent to kind of curl the weight as you do your back extensions is not an ideal solution. So cables are not going to work. And then you could also do your side crunches, work your obliques on this machine. So I'll probably work those in a little bit when I do core. Honestly, I think those are the big three. Those are the things that this machine does the best. And then there's kind of everything else that's just bonus. And the perfect example is reverse hypers. This machine offers reverse hypers. It's just really not that great. This is not a machine that you would buy in lieu of a reverse hyper machine, because frankly, it is very different. The main difference being that there is no resistance, there's no way to add weight. So you're just swinging your legs and it's not super challenging. It is a good warm-up exercise and you will definitely feel it when you do enough reps, but it's never something that's gonna be challenging to the extent of a dedicated piece that has a pendulum with weight that allows you to progressively overload and make these more challenging. It is comfortable enough. You can adjust it so that you're on a bit of a decline, so your booty's up in the air and elevated to give you a little bit more room. I find that even when I adjust it, my feet are coming really close to the unit at the bottom, and I'm not that tall. I'm 5'10". If you're any taller than that, I can see your feet hitting at the bottom. They do give you the option to put a resistance band through this loop to add some resistance. I tried it. I don't really love resistance band work, but my gears are always turning, and I was wondering if I could use my cable somehow to create some kind of resistance. So I threw ankle straps on and I attempted to get into the cables. It was very awkward to get into it, but once I got into position and I tried it, it actually worked way better than I thought it was going to. The weight was low. I had 20 pounds on each side, and it's not gonna feel as authentic as the pendulum on a dedicated machine, but it was a way to add resistance. I tried it twice over 2 separate workouts, and I actually kind of liked it. Now I'm gonna play around with it to try to figure out what the most comfortable way to set that up is, but there is the option to use cables like that, and it worked way better than I thought it was gonna work. I can see Freak Athlete at some point coming up with some kind of an add-on to add a pendulum weight. I have no insight as to whether or not that's gonna be a thing, but the way that they've continued to add and innovate onto this bench, I could see that being an option down the road. At least I hope so. So time will tell, but for now, you can do these weightless and they feel pretty good. It's just, it's not something that's gonna be a staple and not something that's really gonna be very challenging. And then you can also adjust this machine onto a decline to do sit-ups and leg raises. I don't really think there's a lot to say about these. You know what sit-ups look like. I do find myself wishing that the bench was a little bit longer. I'm used to full benches when I do sit-ups where my body's not hanging off at the bottom. Again, this is just one of those nice to have additional uses, but not something you're buying this for. I did try leg raises though, and I like those way more. The foot plate has these handles built into it that are also knurled, and in this case, makes sense because it's an actual handle. So comfortable to hold on to, and then you can do leg raises on that. That's something I can see myself doing more, but still just kind of an additional feature that's nice built-in functionality to add on to everything else. This also has a leg roller, so you can do things like hip thrusts and split squats. There's this little lever at the bottom that folds up that you can lock into place, and then you take the foot pad off the back and slip it right on top there. And then you have a leg roller on the end of the machine. Split squats on this are fine. I think doing them on a leg roller in general is the most comfortable way to perform a split squat. But even at the highest setting, I do find this too low. So if you're taller, you probably won't be doing split squats on this because it is so low. But hip thrusts, I do really enjoy on this. I've never really enjoyed barbell hip thrusts using a bench. It's just not very comfortable for me. I find that having my back on a roller allows for a much more natural and comfortable range of motion as you go through the hip thrust. So you can either do these on their own, you can grab a dumbbell and do hip thrusts like that, or if you want to do barbell hip thrusts, the way I set it up now is I have my VTS, which turned my rack into a Smith machine. So I set up Smith machine hip thrusts, and they are awesome. This is what I'm going to exclusively do hip thrusts on. So while it's just kind of an add-on feature of this, I feel like to me, it is a very, very big benefit. The final use cases for this, I'm gonna lump all together because they require the leg developer attachment, which I don't have. It does seem like this big clunky piece. So you do have to account for the extra storage of this leg developer, but it allows for leg extensions, leg curls, and upper body movements. Other reviewers seem to say that the resistance is awesome on it and you feel the same resistance throughout the entire movement, which is something that with plate loaded leg extensions especially is a huge issue. So if that is the case, then that's awesome. And then the unit also allows for upper body movements with this upper body strap that they offer. You can do things like face pulls and bicep curls and stuff like that. To me, the upper body portion seems super gimmicky. I would not recommend buying this to do upper body work. If you were buying this unit as your only piece of home gym equipment, then having the option, sure, then you can do a few upper body exercises. I can't imagine doing many things effectively with a leg extension with a strap on it, but hey, it's an option. The most important piece of any home gym equipment is the price and whether or not this is worth it. So let's talk about it. The unit itself, without any additional add-ons, is $800 right now. And then the GHD pad is separate, that is $170. The GHD pad allows you to do GHRs, your sit-ups, and your reverse hypers. So it kind of feels like a necessary purchase. If you were gonna buy this bench, I would definitely add that on with it. Otherwise, you're mostly just doing Nordics, in which case you can get a much cheaper option. This company sells a mini Nordic bench. It's $250, and if you only want to do Nordics, I would go that route. So if you're gonna buy this, I would say the GHD pad is a necessary add-on. All in, the unit that I have that I used for this review is about $1,000. The leg developer, if you want to add that, is $300. Now that's a pretty good deal for a plate loaded leg extension leg curl. The one that I have is about $450 right now. So if you're comparing it to that, it's a pretty good deal for what it is. Now it depends on how it actually performs, and I can't speak to that, but if it performs as well as it seems like it does, then $300 for a plate loaded machine, not to mention the space-saving solution of having it all in one, it is a pretty good deal. But we'll put the leg developer aside. $1,000 for this unit. Is it worth it? Let's put it into perspective. If you're considering this for the three main uses of it, which I would consider to be Nordic curls, GHRs, and Hyperextensions, then you're getting a really good deal. Take into account that a simple Nordic bench will be $250. You can get a Hyperextension bench from Titan for another $250. And then sticking with Titan, if you get a dedicated GHD, it's about $500. So all in on those three alone, it's $1,000. And then you factor in all the additional things that this bench can do, and then the space-saving solution on top of that, and you're getting a lot more bang for your buck. So if we're only looking at price, then yes, it is very reasonable, but who is this even for? If you're currently in the market for a Nordic bench or a GHD, then this is a no-brainer. It does both of those things super well. You do not have to dedicate space to separate machines. If you happen to be shopping for those already, then you can stop your search, because then this is absolutely worth it. But I would imagine that anyone shopping for a GHD and a Nordic bench is a very small subset of the population. So who else would this actually be for? I think there are two groups that are best suited for this machine. One being athletes, and two being older folks. And by older folks, I say anybody 30 and older, because in my experience, once you hit 30, it is all downhill. If your sole purpose for having a home gym is building as much strength and power and muscle as possible, then this is not really going to serve you well. It's great for warming up and recovery. $1,000 is a steep price tag if you're only gonna use this as something to warm up with to then get into your strength training routine. If you're an athlete, then the overall dynamic and explosive movements that you do with this are going to be very beneficial for you. For me, as I get older and these random ailments start attacking me in my lower back and my legs, I'm going to be very thankful for having exercises like this. Things like Nordics and GHRs, they're gonna be good for your knees, your overall core. It's gonna be very beneficial for you as you get older, versus when I was in my 20s and I was able to just hop into the gym, max bench, and go home. If I try doing that kind of stuff now, I'm just always gonna be injured. Having these types of exercises, even if they're just body weight exercises, it's gonna be really beneficial for me. If you're watching this and you're much older than me, I'm sorry for saying 30 is old. It just kind of feels like that's the cliff and you're invincible in your 20s. And then once you hit 30, it's just, there's no hope for us. All of that being said, to be totally honest, this is never something I would have spent $1,000 on, plain and simple. All of these movements were not staples in my programming, so they were nothing that I was seeking out prior to having this. But now I have the benefit of hindsight on my side. When I was just filming the exercises for this video, by the end of it, I was sweating, I was gassed. I actually got a pretty good workout in. And since that, I have done a few different workouts utilizing this bench, and I have thoroughly enjoyed every second of it. Don't get it twisted. This is not a necessity for home gyms. If I was starting over and building my home gym from scratch, it wouldn't be one of the first things I buy. I think this is a good complement to the main pieces of equipment that you would buy. If you've ever considered getting a standalone piece for anything this does, a Nordic bench, a GHD, a Hyperextension machine, I would go this route. Not only does it save space, but it gives you the option to do all these other exercises. And this seems like something that Freak Athlete is going to use kind of as an ecosystem that they're going to continue to add on to and innovate with. So I'd be really excited to see where they go from here. The fact that you can retrofit your old bench for this new functionality makes me think that if you buy this, they'll come out with features down the road that you will be able to adjust and adapt your piece to. I hope that helps. The question of is it worth it is truly impossible for me to answer. Not only are everyone's needs and desires different, but it's really not fair for me to say because I was given this for free. I wouldn't have purchased it on my own. And I have the benefit of hindsight now to say that, yes, I do think it's worth it, but I can't say that you need to go out and buy this. Having used this now for a few different workouts, I can say with confidence, this is going to be a staple for me. But let me know what you guys think. Is this something that you want to add to your home gym? Is it something you have already? And if you do, what do you think of it? Leave me your comments, let me know your thoughts, hit me with your questions, and I will do my best to help as much as I can. I am milking this space for all it's got. I don't know if I can fit any more equipment here, but we'll see. Maybe you'll see some more reviews from me depending on what I can fit, but I am thin on space right now.